Did you check your mask? I know during the time of the pandemic, we got tired of people asking us about, do we have our mask? But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm really talking about is the mask that we wear that hides who we really are from the world. Did you check your mask? So many of us don't have the luxury of being ourselves. And so we wear what Paul Laurence Dunbar, the African-American poet, said that we wear the mask. He wrote, "We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts, we smile and mouth with myriad subtleties." The mask that we wear, that we hide behind, where folks really don't know who we are at our core. I learned to wear the mask early on in my life. You see, growing up in the South, I was the one who integrated, curated white spaces. And as much as we talk about the benefits and the accolades among being the first, we don't really talk about what it means being the only. The pressure of having to be perfect. Be brilliant, but don't show up others. Be respectful, but don't suck up. Be transparent, but don't overshare. Wearing this mask just to feel that I could fit in, just to feel that I could belong. I was the first and only black in my Montessori school. I was the first and only black to integrate my independent school here in Atlanta. You see, I might have been raised in Bankhead, but for those of you who know Atlanta, I was educated in Buckhead. And having to navigate those two worlds, so much that what W.E.B. Du Bois talks about, the two-ness of being African and American, being seen through the lens of others. Can you imagine what it's being like to be hated just for who you are, not for what you did, not for anything but just showing up, just for who you are, hated, reviled, despised. But there came a time when I had to check my own mask to decide who was I really going to be. It happened to me in May of 2014. I was in Ferguson, Missouri. Some of you may recall what happened later that year in Ferguson, Missouri, where Michael Brown, an unarmed black man, was killed by a police officer. There I was in Ferguson, Missouri. Interestingly enough, doing a work on multicultural outreach. Standing during the break, feeling pretty good about myself on the work that I had done. A leader comes up to me and says, "I don't like black people." I considered that to be a provocation. How could I not? For in that moment, my life experience from 4 until then came rushing upon me as my jaw clenched, my fist closed. I began to have a hypervigilance and seeing if there might be other attackers. I was ready to fight. But then, on the other hand, there was the fear. I wasn't at home. I was in Ferguson, Missouri. What could possibly happen to me? Because the Southern history of African Americans has not been lost on me. And I've been in those spaces, and I know the history of what happened to Emmett Till and what could happen over a perceived slight or insult. The late, great Billie Holiday sang that Southern trees bear strange fruit, blood on the leaves, blood on the root. Black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from poplar trees. Could this be my future? I took a breath and said, "You do realize that I'm black?" And he said to me, "Yes, but I heard your talk. And you seem like a man of integrity that I can talk to." What? Way to bury the headline, sir. Because this could have gone any number of wrong ways. And so we engaged in a conversation. I did what my daughter calls the coachy thing. See, as a coach, we show up in many different ways, including when we raise our kids. And so as my daughter would share what was going on in her life, I would begin to get curious and ask powerful questions. And she calls it the coachy thing. And so I spoke to him, and I heard his story. And he began to tell me that as a contractor, he would subcontract out to different workers, many of whom were black, and he had found himself to be disappointed because they were consistently unreliable. And so I paused for a moment and said, but sir, you mean to tell me you've never been disappointed by a white person? And so because of those experiences, you're going to discount an entire race? Awareness. The good news, though, and what I'm most proud about, is the fact that I did not dismiss him. I did not chastise. I did not castigate. I didn't just throw away his concerns or even diminish who he was. I was able to check my mask and found out who I really was. We will all have those moments. America is going through a check your mask moment right now. For indeed, as we say, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. But does that apply to all persons? Give me your poor, your tired, your huddled masses, yearning to be free. Really? Perhaps America needs to check her mask. Corporations are talking about they want places of equity and belonging. But according to JobSage, some 64% of people are hiding something from their employers. And equally, another 64% who said when they had shared from a place of authenticity, they weren't received well. They weren't celebrated. They weren't accepted. And many had negative repercussions. Perhaps our corporations need to check their masks. And so, if I may today, I use MASK as an acronym. M-A-S-K, MASK. M for motivation. Do we really want to have a place where all people, and I do mean all people, are accepted and affirmed and can show up and have their best work? They need to check themselves. Why are you doing it? Are you doing it because other companies are doing it? Are we doing it for PR? Are we doing it because we're afraid of our stock price? Are we afraid of what might happen out in the world? Are we doing it from a real, authentic place? Motivation. But then awareness. Awareness, 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 awareness. Are we aware of how we come off? Are we aware of how we engage? Are we aware of how we relate to others that are just not us? Awareness. But then we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to grow our skills in how we relate to one another, which is so important. It's skillful to be able to speak. See, in the South, we're rather hospitable. And so having the skills to relate to people the way they want to be related to. See, I was raised with the golden rule, but there's something higher called the platinum rule. See, the golden rule says to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But the platinum rule says to treat others the way they want to be treated, which leads me to the last letter K, which is knowledge. When was the last time you had a conversation with somebody that's not like you? I enjoy meeting people that are not like me. As a matter of fact, neuroscience says that when we engage difference, it creates new neural pathways. So in other words, diversity makes you smarter. M-A-S-K. We check our masks. We check our motivation, our awareness, our skills, and our knowledge. I'm hopeful, nonetheless, because I believe that in this time, that in this season, that we can create welcoming workplaces for all. That no matter who we are or where we come from, that we can have a place where all can come together and be their best authentic selves. I'm committed to that. And when we do this work, we do it together. Not just for our allies, not just for our advocates, but for our adversaries as well. And so on today, take a moment to check your mask.